Hi, everyone, and welcome back to this series where we interview top HR professionals and leaders and thinkers in Singapore and Southeast Asia about how they are thinking about the current COVID crisis. My name is Chee Tung. I'm the co-founder of EngageRocket, and today we're very privileged to have with us Professor Fermin Diez from the Singapore Management University and Nanyang Technological University. He's also on the board of the Institute for HR Professionals in Singapore, and he chairs the Assessments and Research Committee. Something that I joke about a lot with him is he literally wrote the book on HR analytics, and it became one of the top 10 HR books for 2020. So welcome, Professor Fermin Diez.
Thank you, Chee Tung. Glad to be here and to share some thoughts.
Thank you for sharing, and I think the community has really appreciated these insights as we all navigate this situation together as SG United. But how serious actually do you think the health situation is now?
Well, it depends on how you look at it. Here in Singapore, I think it's still manageable, and the government is doing a tremendous job of trying to contain it. Now that all of the people coming in will have quarantine orders and stay at hotel notices, was a little bit of concern about the few unlinked cases that are around. But in general, I think our population is quite aware of the situation and being quite careful about how to prevent it, and that companies are doing their share also to do so. However, the rest of the world is quite concerning. The news coming in every day about Italy and Spain, and now the US and the UK are quite concerning, which means that this pandemic is still on its gaining force, if anything. So even though in Singapore we may feel a little bit safer, out there it's still a concern.
Yeah, it's very sobering.
The recession is coming for sure. The economies of the world are getting affected, particularly some very large ones. So that's what you should expect. Even after we're done with the health crisis, we're still going to have to deal with the economic crisis that comes after it.
Yeah, so dealing with the health crisis and then the economic crisis, and it's a sobering reminder to us here in Singapore that we can't be a closed economy. I think while the rest of the world can afford to close borders and survive, it's maybe a little bit more challenging for us here in Singapore.
We rely on trade. For us, it's hard.
Moving more to businesses, as you've obviously interacted with many business leaders, what do you think are some of the key considerations that businesses should have behind continuity planning or business continuity planning during this time?
A lot of what you are starting to see the HR community do is the right thing to do. Split teams, work from home, bring non-essential people to not come to the office, all of the care that has to go into the health of anyone that is in contact with anyone. So all of these are the right things to do. And hopefully all of the companies have done that, have implemented social distancing, have implemented all of the right measures. Hopefully then you then have to worry about the second tier of things, which is how do you take care of the business? You first have to take care of the people, but then you have to take care of the business. So what's going to happen? Are your sales down? Are your suppliers unable to give you raw materials? What exactly is the state of your business? Some companies will see absolutely no business. You're looking, for instance, at the cruise companies. Not only are they not doing anything, they are unlikely to be doing anything for a good time in the foreseeable future. F&B is suffering. Hotels, tourism in general is suffering. So these are industries that will take a while to recover. So these are the things that you have to start to consider. Once you have taken care of the people, how are you going to start addressing the business?
That's a really good point. And yeah, you're right. I mean, there's some businesses that will have to survive on zero revenue almost for the foreseeable future. And as somebody who one of the gurus of HR analytics in this part of the world, how do you think that an analytical approach to HR and managing people can help to alleviate concerns during such uncertain times?
There's probably a great deal that analytics can help to do. However, the most immediate need, I would say, is for instant communication. One of the things that companies can do, for those companies, for instance, that have pulse surveys of the kind that EngageRocket does, is how do you use those pulse surveys to try to get a very quick assessment of what would people prefer. The best companies would try to implement even the unpalatable policies in a way that best meets their employees' expectations. So is it better, for instance, to cut people, cut pay, cut time? What exactly should companies do if they want to start preserving their cash during this economic recession that is looming? A pulse survey can actually help to answer some of these questions. Some companies may feel like, do I really want to ask employees about this? But in the end, if you want to maintain trust and you want to maintain that your employees see the value of being in your company, one thing that you may want to seriously consider is ask your employees what would they prefer and try to enact the policy that best allows you to maintain, at least for those employees that will stay with you, that sense of belonging to the company and that sense of feeling that they're there to try to help the company as well. As everybody tries to look for their own health and the health of their family, like I said, once we're done past that, the next thing is to worry about the company. Good way to do that is then to collect this data and try to figure out how do you apply this data. The other thing that I think would be quite useful is to use, again, pulse surveys in a way that would allow you to keep a handle on the situation. How are people feeling? Are they feeling like that we're doing a good job? Are they feeling that we're addressing the crisis appropriately? Are they feeling that my supervisors are addressing the crisis appropriately? Are they feeling that some of this work from home is not necessarily working out, and what else can we do? Instant feedback. In a time where we can't actually all be together, instant electronic feedback that the company can act upon is super valuable, and the faster you can act, the better you will be.
Thanks for mentioning that. I think it's something that EngageRocket has seen as well, and we're very pleased to be able to offer that service at no cost, essentially, to all businesses who are keen to adopt such policies. And so on that, I think you mentioned a little bit about pay earlier. Like, how do you think companies should be going about thinking on remuneration and compensation during this time?
You know, this is a discussion that will become unavoidable in any company that is going to struggle during this economic downturn. And the choices are quite clear. Do you keep pay? Do you even increase pay? Do you keep pay? Do you decrease pay? Do you cut people? Do you cut time? All things being equal, if companies had enough foresight to have a monthly variable component in their pay, this is the right time to basically tell employees this MVC is going to get taken away. To cut bonus is complicated because bonus technically was earned for work done last year, although some companies may have to resort to doing that. Some companies may have a view that they will freeze salaries. If they can afford it, that's great. In the debate between should you cut people or cut pay, I think cut pay has already been proven to be the most effective. And in past crises, such as SARS in '98 and global financial crisis in 2008, it was clearly seen that the companies that cut people had a harder time to recover after the recession ended and the recovery started. Not only because they had to now go hire, sometimes even the same people that they let go of, but also because the people that stayed no longer trusted the company the same way. So hopefully companies are truly considering getting rid of people as the absolutely last resort only when nothing else is enough. Other things that consider with pay, for instance, is going to be the sales compensation. This is a critical element, particularly those sales plans that deal with quotas. How quickly can you revise those quotas? What happens if the quotas are dropping to unprofitable levels? Do you still maintain the levels of compensation of your sales force? I think the sales force has to also undergo the same sort of critical analysis. Do you cut the pay or do you cut the people? Except with the sales force, it's more complicated, because with the sales force, particularly those that have high commission schemes, the base pay level may not be enough. So do you draw? Do you basically just assume that this is a period where you want to maintain your sales force, even if the sales are not there, and put them on reduced compensation, but again, not no compensation, or at least not enough compensation? Tough decisions to make.
Yeah.
But the same pattern should be the same, should be applied, which is try to cut time or pay before you cut people.
And I think one of the prevailing considerations here is how do we recover strongly, and especially when we don't know when that recovery is going to be, positioning for that. And I think, well, I mean, tying back to your earlier point about pulse surveys, you're not going to see a ton of people voluntarily resigning in this kind of environment, but everyone in the company is watching leadership in how they are responding, and the kind of value judgments that they're demonstrating through this time as well. And once there is a recovery, I think there's going to be a marked difference between companies that put their people first and therefore recover more strongly and faster, versus those that essentially just threw their people under a bus. I don't know. What do you think about that?
You're right in that we don't know how long this is going to last. You hear some of the political leaders talking about just weeks or months. We all want to hope that, but the reality is that, again, judging from past experiences that were health related, the likelihood that it's going to be weeks or months is okay, maybe not so good. And we have to plan for slightly more time than that. So that being said, because we don't know when it's going to end, you need to make scenario plans. And scenario plans may include the fact that you may say, on the one hand, this is a 2-month thing, on the other hand, is an end of year thing. And the more pessimistic scenario might be a whole year or more into next year. And then what would you do under various scenarios? And perhaps in one scenario, we want to say, okay, let's cut some pay, let's reduce some of our costs, NBC, and maybe some of the other things that we can do readily and keep our people. And when the pickup comes, to be absolutely ready to get going on day one. If we see the recession going a bit longer, and we may not be able to sustain our cash flow for that long, then you may have to consider other options to apply when you are sure that that's the scenario that is at least more likely to happen. So that's why I would recommend to go about this, not make a single set of decisions today that basically locks you in, but to give yourself options from an HR point of view that will allow you to try to keep the business ready for the pickup, and to be able to do it as fast as you can on the back end.
As we're thinking about that, I mean, it brought to mind a question that we've been toying around with at EngageRocket. And in the worst case scenario, like what if this situation were to last for 3 years? I mean, it literally becomes a new normal. Like, how do you think that the workplace is going to change if we were to work under similar restrictive measures for 3 years?
I don't know that we could survive 3 years lots of things will have to change, that's for sure. If this were to go on for 3 years, like you say, I think there are businesses that would have to completely transform. Let's start with simple ones. Like I said, cruise companies would have to change. They would become something else, maybe floating hotels. If you think about movie theaters, again, they would have to change. They may become storage for medicines. There are lots of things that would change, that will forever change if we were to keep this for too long, because those businesses were unlikely. People will get used to the fact that you no longer have to vacation on a cruise, or you no longer have to go to a movie theater. Other things I think will completely change. One of the things that will change is our ability to have meetings like this without having to see each other. And I think a lot more companies will see this as a viable alternative that will basically change the way we do business in many ways. From an HR perspective, the work from home debate has to end. Whether or not people should work from home and they're not productive at home, it will end, because this will be the new way of working, and there's no longer a debate as to whether or not people are productive. You will have to evaluate their work from home, because that's the only way they will be working. And then the whole argument afterwards to say, oh, you don't know, but now you have to come to the office because that's the only way you can really be productive, will die before it even comes out of their mouths, because it won't be true.
It's going to have a massive impact on real estate. I mean, again, imagine all the commercial space that suddenly becomes freed up.
I think on airlines and hotels, true, because I would clearly see that the need for people to fly around all over the planet to have meetings will decrease. I mean, there's certainly going to be still some reason to go visit people personally, but some of the more routine work, I think we will no longer be as excited to jump on planes and spend money to go meet somebody in Shanghai, Bangkok, or Delhi, simply on a whim. That we will get more used to this idea that we can all zoom in and do this. So new businesses will spring up. One of the things that you're already beginning to see is how all these online platforms are becoming the new norm. I think the business of home delivery is going to grow even further. So some businesses will become super prevalent. If you haven't already, buy stock in Zoom, buy stock in Netflix. These are the new companies that will become the way to see the future. Yeah.
Very true. Last question, Fermin. What is one thing that you suggest leaders in their businesses think about as they plan for the challenges ahead? What's one tip that you can give them as they think about all of this and try to internalize it?
Well, I think I referred to it already. People first. Take care of your people. It will be perfectly understanding by all your clients that you're taking care of your people first. By all means, then take care of your clients. But everybody in your company...
People first, then clients.
Yes, because everybody in your company needs to know that you will look out for them. Everybody needs to know that you are looking out for them. Otherwise, what may happen, it is true, no one is going to quit during this period of time, or not many people will anyway, and there's probably not many options to go to. But if the people in your company feel that you did not look after them during this crisis, they will not stick with you afterwards. They will start looking for opportunities to go elsewhere as soon as they can. So what you will find is that you will have a very hard time to recover from this if you don't take care of your people first. Then address your clients, then address your business. And hopefully the HR community will emphasize this point. What we're also seeing, and it's interesting to see some of the global media pick up on this, how the role of HR has come front and center during this crisis. Hopefully it's a role that we can maintain after the crisis is over, because we have finally gained our rightful place at the proverbial table as a business partner to run the company as well as we can. I think companies that have understood that if they take good care of their people, they can better weather storms, can also understand that if they take good care of their people, they can also prosper. So yeah, I think that's what my message would be.
Thank you very much. Those are very deep insights that we've spoken about over the past 20 minutes. And thank you very much for your time and so generously sharing, Professor Fermin Diez. Once again, this has been a chat with Professor Fermin Diez from SMU and NTU. He's on the board of IHRP, and he literally wrote the book on HR analytics. And my name is Chee Tung. I'm the co-founder of EngageRocket. Thank you so much for joining us today. Hope this was helpful. Take care.
Thank you, Chee Tung, and take care, everybody. Make sure to maintain social distances, wash your hands, and stay safe.
Thank you.